And with that, we are here. Hello everyone, this is Neronium. Welcome to my newest playthrough of Final Fantasy XII. Wait a minute, this says International Zodiac Job System. And there's Japanese, what's going on? So I have a lot to explain, but here's the gist. Final Fantasy XII was created and developed by Square-Enix, published originally in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. In 2007, an international version of Final Fantasy XII was released, known as the International Zodiac Job System, in which job classes were added to the game, much like more traditional Final Fantasies. Later on, in 2017, a PS4 and PC version coming out in 2018 were released under the name The Zodiac Age. And finally, now, in 2019, the Switch and Xbox One have gotten the treat and now have the Zodiac Age on their respective systems. So, we're actually going to be playing the Zodiac Age, but the thing is, why am I starting off inside of the International Zodiac Job System instead of, starting on the version I'm going to be playing, which is going to be the Xbox One version of the game? Well, it all has to do with this intro cutscene right here. All versions of the Zodiac Age do not have this intro cutscene that was inside the original Final Fantasy XII or the international version of the game. Which I find to be a shame, because I actually do like this little cutscene right here. While I understand it's pre-rendered for a lot of it and it would look ugly, I'm doing some upscaling techniques to make it look presentable, to say the least. But yes, we're going to be doing the Xbox One version of the Zodiac Age for a few reasons. I'll get into those in a bit, but what is my history with Final Fantasy XII? It's actually kind of a long one, and kind of a funny one too. When I was a kid, I went into a GameStop and saw a game that said Final Fantasy on it. At the time, I knew about Final Fantasy through playing Final Fantasy X, which was my first ever Final Fantasy game. But I wouldn't own a Final Fantasy game until I ended up going into a GameStop and thinking I saw Final Fantasy XII. Young me did not know what Roman numerals were, and instead of getting Final Fantasy XII, I got Final Fantasy X2. Yeah, that was an interesting experience to explain to your parents when you're a child. But as a result, though, I later found out that Final Fantasy XII was going to be coming out later that year, because I had gotten the Final Fantasy XII pre-order for it, actually. And I actually do have a lot of copies of Final Fantasy XII. In fact, if I were to count all of them, I believe Final Fantasy XII is my most purchased game. I almost own every single copy of this game on every single system. The only one I don't own it for is PC, because I ain't messing with de novo. I do not like de novo. I really wish companies would stop using it. But I finally got Final Fantasy XII in 2006 and immediately fell in love with it. The gameplay is a lot different from other Final Fantasy games, taking more in line of an offline MMO, similar to what I would say Phantasy Star Online. And a lot of people did not like this game when it first came out. A lot of people were not happy with the Gambit system or the license boards, and it was critically panned. Nowadays, I'm actually seeing quite the opposite. I'm seeing a lot of people actually really enjoying and really liking Final Fantasy XII, which makes me happy, because Final Fantasy XII later on ended up becoming my favorite Final Fantasy game. Well, numbered Final Fantasy game, I should say. Taking place in the world of Ivalice, much like Final Fantasy Tactics. The Final Fantasy XII Ivalice is before Tactics, I believe, and before Tactics Advance 2 and some of the other ones. There was a sequel game to Final Fantasy XII. It's Final Fantasy XII The Reverent Wings, which is on the Nintendo DS. I might do that game someday. I do own it just for posterity's sake, because I love Final Fantasy XII so much. This game also had a lot of corporate meddling, which I will go over inside of the project, but I guess we should get into that right now. What am I going to be doing for this project? Well, for one, as I mentioned before, we will be doing the Xbox One version. Reason is because of two main reasons. One, the Xbox One version actually does 60 frames per second, apparently, and through what I've seen so far of it, that holds true. And the Zodiac Age version of for PS4 and Switch do not. Second, I find that the Switch and the Xbox One version have a leg up on the PS4 version unless they add an update that I am not aware of at the time of this recording, because this is the first day that the Zodiac Age is coming out for Switch and Xbox One. And that has to deal with the job classes I mentioned earlier. The international version of the game fixed a lot of issues that the original vanilla Final Fantasy XII had. I cannot go back to my original copy of Final Fantasy XII. It is what I consider to be the most inferior copy of the game. What are some odd design choices that were in that one? Well, for one, your damage cap was limited to 9,999 in a game where enemies, and the most famous enemy, have millions, if not 50 million HP. You also have instances of the license board being the same for everyone, so everyone pretty much becomes the same once you max out the license board. The only difference being the summons. And finally, the weapon system and the gambit system, while implemented, I thought it was fine. Could have been used a little bit better. The international version, on the other hand, fixes a lot of these problems. For one, the job classes are added in to where you get unique job classes for each of your characters, should you choose to make somebody a berserker, an Ulahan, a white mage, a machinist, that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. And the gambit system had been revamped. Most importantly, though, the damage cap was removed. Now you can damage a lot higher now, which is just perfect. The other thing that the international version added in was controllable guest characters, controllable summons, and finally, and this is a big one, better weapons. Also removing the infamous Zodiac Spear requirements from the original vanilla game that I will get into once we get into this game proper. Now, the Zodiac Age adds all of that, but added one other caveat. With the Zodiac Age, you could dual job class, something that was not possible inside of the PS2 version of International. What do I mean by that? Say you want to be a white mage, well, why don't you combine them with a machinist or machinist, I still am debating on how to pronounce that, and you will get a combo that can use guns as well as rods or stabs, who also can do white magic but also can do ranged attacks. It works out very well. Now, here's where the Xbox One and Switch versions come into place. The Xbox One and Switch versions of the game actually have the ability for you to change your job classes at any time you want during the game. This is why I find that at this moment, the Switch and Xbox One versions are the definitive versions of the game, unless, again, if they make a update that allows PS4 and PC users to do just that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's already out. Like I said, I haven't looked, I haven't checked and seen if any updates are like that, but that's why I'm doing the Xbox One version of the game, and we'll be starting up on the Xbox One version in the next part. Now, what will we be doing for this project? Final Fantasy XII is a beast, to be sure. Final Fantasy XII has a lot of different side content, which I'm a huge sucker for side quests, so you can see why I love this game so much. And my goal for this is not really to do 100%, because that'll be a little bit hard to do considering the trial mode right here, but I will do my best to do what I can. Now, for Final Fantasy XII, International, and Zodiac Age, they added in this right here, trial mode. What is trial mode? Basically, it allows you to go through a set of 100 trials, each 10 trials being harder than the last, and get weapons early in the game that you can transfer into your own game. I will be utilizing the trial system inside of this run in order to be able to get some weapons and armor, equipment that generally I'm not supposed to get yet. I will do that in its own episode that will go in between, so you'll be seeing that when I break up the pace a bit. But I do want to do most, if not all, of the hunts in the game, because the hunts are fun, especially one in particular. I'm not talking about the legendary beast, I'm talking about the one that makes me laugh. But that's my goal for Final Fantasy XII. It's to do pretty much main story, obviously, and a lot of the side quests. Similar to how I pretty much did Final Fantasy X close to 100%. I didn't fill out everyone's sphere grid because, oh dear God, that would have been horrible. But I will end up doing most of the hunts, getting most of my characters up high. You'll notice I'll favor some characters over others, and we'll just continue from there. So anyway, guys, I'm going to end it off right here. This has been Neronium, and I welcome you all to Final Fantasy XII. See you all next time.